The NobleSole podcast would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the lands on which we gather, dream, and record this podcast.
The Wurundjeri and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation.
We pay our respects to those mobs and their elders, past, present, and future. We'd also like to extend that acknowledgement to all mobs across the many nations on these lands.
We'd like to thank the lands that we create on. Sovereignty was never ceded.
This always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Welcome to the NobleSole podcast, where creativity meets consciousness. I'm Ben Noble.
And I'm Amy Soul. And we're creatives and best friends, just like Batman and Robin.
And today, we're yarning about interconnected stories.
So, interconnected story. Ben Harmon. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, how stories are connected to us, how stories are kind of played out throughout the zeitgeist, and how they're ever evolving.
Oh, the way that I think about interconnected story is like how all story is interconnected to everything.
Right. I suppose we're looking at the intersection between story and how we tell story and how that helps us as humans.
I mean, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
I'm also the most excited about all of our episodes of this episode because story is the thing that makes me most excited.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the storytellers that I know and have consumed content for, like, you're probably one of my favorite storytellers. The meta-ness of Amy is just phenomenal. And whenever I read or I see one of your pieces, it hits me for like 3 days where I just like the story lingers and it just like unravels my own stories that I've told myself. And then I have to pick up the pieces from there. So thank you. And wow.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
But that's the impact of story, right?
Yeah.
And like for me, one of the reasons why I love story is, I love story for so many reasons. I love story because it's a reflection of us as human beings. Culturally for me, when I think of like creation stories, I think of like knowledges and laws and ways of understanding country or the world around us. And so story is also a way of understanding our connection to country and our connection to all things.
Yeah.
And our responsibility within that ecosystem of living on Earth.
Yeah, wow. And so the plot helps us understand the story.
Well, understand something about the story which the creators are trying to specifically pinpoint or pull out.
Yeah, because that's the thing though, right? Like the plot is just a section of the story. It's like a perspective of the story.
Yeah, it's a way of telling the story. And, there's many different, I'm not by any means an expert on story structure. Like there's many other brains that are much better on story structure than I am, or understanding plot or understanding form or, but my understanding of plot is that it's the way in which we tell story, like how it unfolds. Like, if it's the story of Ben, the plot might be the day that he went to the service station and it was being robbed by a dude in a carrot suit.
Yeah. And that could be like any day because the amount of times that's happened.
Stories are just like once upon a time. A song has a story. Like a painting has a story. Like every single element of an arts practice has a story, not just story. Even a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, and how we bring our own story to said stories, kind of like
how our own personal experience influences the stories we tell.
Yeah. Like if I get too far ahead of the present, then my mind starts to tell us the story of how I want this to go, and then all of a sudden I'm not writing the story.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, because that's for me, like, especially when it comes to kind of live performance, that's where I find the story within, I need to be super present where I'm at. So it's like almost a clear channel to then put my perspective or whatever it is on top of it. But it like, the story has to be from the moment, because otherwise it's like almost like a different perspective.
Well, that's where I would say that conscious thought is not story, right? Because conscious thought, for me, my belief in conscious thought, and who am I at the fucking to talk about consciousness? I don't know. I made a podcast. It's about consciousness.
Yeah.
So, but my understanding of conscious thought is that all conscious thought is a lie. Like every single word that is in your head is a lie.
Sure.
Right? Like that's my personal belief and my own philosophy. And so the story structure that's happening in your head, I don't consider conscious thought story, because what's unfolding is actually in the external. Like I don't think story can have like an internal conscious, like when I think that's where people, when they're trying to write story, get stuck, because they want to tell the story in their head.
Yeah.
Rather than embodying it in a practice and just writing, because the story is inside of you, not sitting in your brain on a loop. Like it's in the doing of the practice. It's in the either plotting out the structure or trusting your stream of consciousness or sitting in practice or sitting in a room. So even when you're like, I have a story in my head, right? Like that's the actual story is the story of Ben being stuck in his head, because that's what the external is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But where I tried to bring presence into it is to create there's a separation between the present moment of Ben's being stuck in his head while he's trying to write a story or perform a X, to bring that back into the present, where the story is actually, Ben is writing his first paragraph, or Ben is X. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's the I suppose the tension, the internal tension that I'm just trying to navigate and kind of like collide.
What is that for you? Like, so if you're writing something or if you're creating something, how much of it are you in your head with it?
I think it's like, it's pockets, right? Like I personally feel like I'll go in and out of the consciousness, and it's like when I'm in it, I can get into that kind of, I mean, there's so many different terms for it, like flow state or stream of consciousness or whatever it may be, where there is no thought, there is just feeling and doing and being, and all that kind of mixes into one, and there is just creation. And then there is the time where it kind of like zooms out a bit, and there's definitely been times where, I mean, still to this day, is I've had challenges in the past where I've created kind of internal hierarchies where, whatever I'm creating has to come from my gut, and that's the only pure sense of creation. It has to be straight from my gut and onto the page, or straight from my gut to an audience, or straight from my gut into a microphone recorded. And my mind is almost like something to navigate and kind of like make sure that I've done the work, so my mind isn't racing or wandering or interfering. And I've realized that isn't clean either. My mind is the perception of this consciousness. It comes through the mind into everything else.
I think for me, the mind is, I'm not disregarding the mind. I think that Western culture puts an emphasis on this idea of the mind, which is so redundant and ridiculous. Like, it just is.
Yeah.
And like, I love philosophy. I fucking love the Stoics. Like, pop off, right? All you men out there love the Greeks. We get it. You think that they invented Stoicism. They didn't. We've been here since time immemorial. Get over it, boys. So, like, this emphasis on this idea of the mind is this great thing. And it is. Like, it is, there is so much that we can do with the mind, right? Like, if I'm sitting down and I'm creating out a story structure, I will utilize my mind to an extent of what it is to give it structure, but I'm not thinking. There is a difference between utilizing my mind and thinking. Like right now, I'm utilizing my mind. I'm utilizing my mind all the time, and I'm a genius. Look at me go. Look at me speak. Look at me do things. Look at me dance. Look at me do the things. And it has a structure.
Yeah.
All of this makes sense. All of this is coherent. I'm not thinking.
Wherever this consciousness is coming from, right? What is the first thing that it needs to pass through?
But that's also an idea of like, what do you mean pass through? Why does it have to come? Why does it have to come into here? Why is it not from here?
Yeah, I suppose.
And why is it separated? Why is it not the being that is existing and doing in space is doing and being exactly as it is in space?
Yeah, very true. I mean, it's very true. I say with that's a great position.
Provocation, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's giving to me heads, shoulders, knees, and toes.
Yeah.
Toes, knees, and toes. Head, shoulders, knees. Like we're learning to segment and understand our body in a linear fashion. Do you know how, like, when my Alexander was teacher was like, Amy, you have sides of your body. I was like, what? I have a side?
What do you
and
mean?
not just a front bit and a back bit? Just this conscious awareness.
I'm a 3-dimensional human.
I was like, what? This is a side.
Yeah.
Like I have a hip and I have a side bit. And like,
Oh, damn.
like truly, I was touching my. Oh, that's on camera. Yeah, this kind of like isolation of our body rather than our entirety of our being, and that it's going through here before it comes here or comes here.
Yeah.
But in fact, actually, it's probably just doing all of this, and this is the protective mechanism going, I have to stop you from all of the tigers that are going to attack you.
Yeah.
That's how I perceive it.
Well, I mean, for sure, like the mind definitely, from my perspective or my kind of learnings, it is some version of gatekeeper of safety as well as creation.
100%. It's giving patriarchy.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you say, it's who says that it's coming from the top.
Who says
down?
my vulva is not telling story? I think my vulva tells story all of the time.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about creation story.
I mean, hello.
Hello.
She's doing the most.
Right? But yeah, I suppose that's how a lot of the Western culture has been produced, is top-down thinking. Do you know what I mean? From the constructs of a company to how things are created, instead of the bottom up of like, how do we feel about
But
this?
even the idea of bottom up, right? It's not even just bottom up. It's just interconnected. Like, why can't we all be sitting on the same plane? Like, why can't it be in community? Why is it not here? Why is it not shared?
Yeah.
That's interconnectedness. That's the interconnectedness of story.
They said it. They said it.
I don't know why our podcast got so raunchy. I didn't expect it. When we were like, let's do a podcast, I didn't expect it to get us.
Neither. We talk more openly than not more openly, different openly.
I think it's just a different space. But I think it's the same thing that I said in the episode that we did last week, which is that, and I've said to you many times, that creative energy and sexual energy are the same energy.
That's true.
They're the making energy, because literally that's what sex is. It is the creation of life.
I'd love to know more about that from your perspective.
So I originally heard it from my sex therapist, who is a brilliant woman. I don't know. I was going to shout her out, Jacqueline Hellier. And she said it to me in one of the sessions, which was about like multiple things, that when you work with someone, you're sitting inside of a creative energy. And so that's why a lot of people end up sleeping together when they make things together, because you're in creative flow. And so you're open to all of those things and you're kind of connecting with each other in a different way. One of the things that I've learned about my own sexual energy is like, it's the same fear mechanism in me of sexual energy as it is for creative energy. And there's a lot of shame around both of those energies for me, sitting in both of those things. And creative energy is the same. Like, creative energy feels risky.
I love because it feels risky, because that's how I see it too. It's like, you don't know, like, that's inherent with both energies, where you don't know what's coming next. And so there's that like beautiful excitement tension that it's like, okay, cool. Like I'm nervous, I take a step. I'm excited, I take a step. And that creation is both, in my mind, just as much writing something down as it is flirting with somebody. It's like you don't know how it's going to unravel.
Whereas I would articulate that sexual energy isn't just flirting with anyone, it's just being, right? Like even like sexual energy is not like sex. Like it is not like, for me, it's not like, how you doing? It's just like, I am.
Yeah.
Like, I am. I walk around the world as a sexual being.
Yeah, true.
Who can have connections, who's opening up as a vulnerable person to be connected to every single person in space. And sometimes, you know, not that person.
Yeah.
Not that energy.
Yeah. I don't want to be creative with you.
I don't want to be mean with you. I don't want
to.
I want to write down a therapist's number for you.
Yes. I've heard, like we've talked about this before, and it's definitely kind of helped me, think about my sexual energy and my creative energy, and not only how to express it, but how to, just like no, like that it is an energy, and it needs to be maintained and be held in a sacred sense.
Yes, exactly, and that it's vulnerable. Like I remember, like when we were in acting school. Shout out acting school. And I remember there was one thing that our acting teacher made us do. We were laying on the floor and he made us listen to a bunch of different songs and just to process what the song made you feel.
Yeah.
And I remember, and we were in Studio 1, you know that big ass Studio 1 with the 2 doors?
Yep.
Laying on that floor. And one of the songs, I was like, oh, I feel aroused. Like I feel turned on. And I remember being like, so ashamed by it.
Yeah.
And then I remember telling our acting teacher, like he was like, how did you all feel? And I was like, for this song, I felt aroused. And I remember at the time I was like, I can't say that. I can't talk about that. I can't like, and I remember he was like, oh, thank you for articulating that, and moved on to another feeling.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm allowed to have that feeling. I'm allowed to sit in that energy. In fact, you need to be able to sit in that energy to be able to create.
Yeah. That's even more of the stories that we tell ourselves, right? That, feeling aroused or feeling sadness or feeling anger or disappointment or jealousy are somewhat not socially acceptable, not even acceptable to feel within ourselves. And then judgment comes. And then I've done in the past, when the judgment comes, then being conscious enough to realize that, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. And so then judging the judgment, and then all of a sudden I'm in the judgment spiral. And
not the judgment loop.
Yeah, they're literally endless. And so it's funny how, the stories that we tell ourselves can be affected from the stories that society tells us as well.
Here's this thing too, to talk about story in regards to the stories that society tells us, which I didn't know how, I did not know that this is the way that this episode would go, which is this, I guess you've always heard this idea that story follows the male climax, right?
Yeah.
That there's rising action, climax, falling action is our basic story structure. So it's like you start with like the world as you know it, and then there's an inciting incident, which then unfolds into a crisis, which then builds and builds and builds until there's a climax, and then there's a downwards resolution kind of time.
3 parts through it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And like even that as a sexual energy, this idea that even story in itself sits within a sexual energy, a masculine energy, which is a whole other thing, which is when we start talking about like not even just the male gaze and the female gaze, but also the idea of masculine and feminine and queer form and the queer form of telling story. Once you get me into form and content, there's a whole other arc. Like when you get me into form, I will not shut up, because everyone has a different way in which story is told. That like if you're sitting inside of a feminine or a queer story, then it might not be. It might be like rising action, mini climax, falling action, rising, climax, rising, climax, crisis, rising, climax, falling action, climax, nap time,
Mm.
rising action, climax. You know what I mean? Like,
I know what you meant. I've witnessed that story a couple times. Yeah, cool.
good for you. Props to you. And that's not to say that I don't love the male climax, because I do, and actually love it as a story structure. I enjoy it. And I think when it's done really well and really crisp, it's that buttery feeling of hitting a golf ball.
Oh.
Like it's...
Like it hits right
right
kind
there.
of thing? Yeah, okay.
Whoa. Like
Satisfying.
Oh, yeah, and I actively try to seek to do it. But I also then love like the meta layers around it where then story can interconnect in many different ways. Like real world context and all of those levels of story.
Right.
But I'm just saying, not that I don't love the male climax, because I do.
Hey, we're here for it. All
of it.
Yeah, well, there is...
Every version.
There is
Also,
male and female within us all.
And non-binary.
Exactly.
And not inside anyone.
Outside, inside.
Nobody's inside anyone here. Okay, so...
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Please.
Which is a question that I ask everyone all of the time obsessively.
Okay.
Because I love understanding people's connection to story. And I've probably asked you this before, but I'd love the new version of who you are in this moment to connect into what I ask, which is, what story or fable throughout time or fairy tale, like iconic story, do you most connect and relate to?
I think, like Aladdin. Like that version of underdog, like, yeah, that coming from nothing and rising up with, friends and like song and dance along the way, but like it gets hard, but it's like moving through things. And yeah, like, I don't want to say, evil powers, but like, I suppose like when I look at it, you got Jafar and he has enemies and all that kind of stuff. I think for me, how it played out was like, life and the realization that it's all coming from me. So, but also lives, and not seeing that. Well, I used to see that as like the hurdles and things that were going against me, but eventually kind of changing the story and realizing that the universe is coming from me, not to me.
Yeah, interesting. And I wonder what the kind of like the story structure or the moral or the kind of dramatic question that Aladdin actually is asking, because my brain immediately goes something like that you don't have to be anything but yourself, or you don't have to achieve all the things that you want to be anything more than who you are, like or you are who you are, like that is your strength.
I mean, the thing that used to get to me, I think, that I resonated with anyway, was being the diamond in the rough, right? I grew up in Blacktown, Western Sydney, and as a kid, the only thing that I knew was that we didn't have a lot of money. But as I grew into a teenager and early 20s and had friends that were outside of Blacktown, I realized that there was like such disdain for it. And so like having that kind of like outsider.
There's also something deeply racist in a place called Blacktown being a place that people hate.
Yeah, for sure.
What's wrong with people?
Yeah, and I mean there's racism for sure, and there's
the West is so deeply multicultural.
and there's like the socioeconomic kind of implications of it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's that diamond in the rough, thinking that I could come out of this.
I'll get out of here.
And not
started from the bottom. Now we're here.
I remember, like, as a teenager, I don't even know if it's true. I'm pretty sure it's not. But, like, hearing that Kate Blanchett went to the same high school as me. I don't think that's true. Like, but
it helps.
But it, like, helps.
It's a good story.
And it was,
story
like,
helps.
you know, and that's the thing. It's like seeing 1-4. Like, I watched their documentary, and it's like, like, they're talking about streets that I used to hang out with and I, like, hang out in. And, you know, I went to... you know, Mount Druitt TAFE, and it was just like, I know what they're talking about, but it was like, okay, cool, just having people, you know, telling stories from where I'm from, it was like, okay, cool, that's a perspective shift instead of just, you know, what Australia meant and the disconnection from it.
Yeah, well, I think that's really interesting because I think that, one, it shows something really beautiful, which is the importance of story and representation, and story is in truth, like story from place is so important. Like, obviously within my context, it's vital, it's everything that I work within, but I think within all contexts, story is not made in a vacuum, story is not pretend, story is not made up, story comes from somewhere, and it is and actually the truth of story, and the more we understand where story comes from and its truth and its realness and its connectedness to those things, is the more impactful that story then becomes.
For sure. And that just gives more depth and layers to the story anyway.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think I used to have that narrative too, because I grew up in a small town, so I'd had the, like, if I was in a musical theatre, my I Want song would be like, I want to be where the people are. like fully.
Yeah.
But I think that there's this thing that happens too, that once you realise that just because the stories of these places doesn't mean there's not stories from where you come from, like the more interconnectedness of all of the things, and the appreciation of place through story. It excites me for the stories that you have to tell in the world, because I think they'll be from place.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's always that I want to write stories from where I am, but having, you know, the little boy from Blacktown, that he's always going to be within me. And so, like, not only paying homage to him, but, like, respecting everywhere that I've been. I think sometimes it can be hard to incorporate because there's protection mechanisms that I have that want to put those stories behind me because they...
Rather than make them as part of the whole of who you are.
Because there's judgments within me that, you know, perceive that those are somehow less than.
Which is actually the thing that makes you most interesting. And we're about to jump into a writing exercise, which I'm very excited to kind of hold through the process, which is a part of my practice that I do quite often.
Yeah.
But when I work with writers, one of the things that I tell them to do is, one, to allow themselves to write badly, and two, to not get rid of anything that they've written, because most of the time it's those parts that they want to take out. Because they reveal too much of themselves and they think that that's the shittest part, but actually that's the most interesting part of a person, that part that they want to hide, because it's the truth of who they are, and it's actually what their voice is as a writer and as an artist. So how would you feel about doing some writing with me to continue for our exercise for this episode?
Yeah, I'd love it. I want to put out there that I want to figure out what our little exercises are like, because I'm really loving on it, and I love talking with you, and I love the doing bit of this, and it's like, oh, cool, like we get to speak about the thing but also do the thing.
Yes.
And so we're being and doing, and that's kind of like the whole thing. I love it. Yeah, writing exercise for sure.
So we'll write for 10 minutes. And we're just going to do a stream of consciousness writing.
Cool.
And you can write in any form you want. You can write in story if you want to. Like, it can be like an actual story, or it could also be, I mean, I tend to write in theatre. I tend to write either monologue or theatrical, but it can be any, or it can be poetry. It can be any version of writing that you want to write. And we'll write for about 10 minutes in full stream of consciousness. And the prompt will be that you have to write badly. You have to let yourself write very badly, even if it sounds nonsensical and you hate it. You're allowed to write it, even if it comes out banana, apple, plum, berry. Why is these all fruit focused? Because I'm fruity.
You are what you eat.
Fruit? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just focus on allowing yourself to write badly, and we're just going to write for 10 minutes, and then we're going to share it.
Are we just going to skip?
Oh, we're going to jump. You don't have to wait here for 10 minutes whilst we jump right. We're just going to... And Meg will do something cool, won't you, Meg?
I thought it was 10 minutes of Meg dancing.
I mean, we could do 10 minutes of Meg dancing.
Yeah, cool.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah.
Is there anything you need before jumping into process?
My mind is literally trying to like be the best ever and is like, what are we going to write about? Go through all the different types of story. Which one do we want to do? What's going to push us the furthest? Like, you know what I mean? Like that.
So let a breath drop in. And just allow our mind to just go for wonder. Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Let your breath drop in. And I'll just, whatever flow to comes out. We've been sitting in story world. Just allow it to come out, even if it doesn't make sense. In fact, I encourage it not to. If anyone at home wants to join us along on this next 10 minutes, I encourage you to do so. Find yourself a nice, comfy little space in which you can just let out all of the things you want to write for 10 minutes. Give yourself a good breath and start.
And love to all the minds that like go fast. So, yeah.
And welcome back.
And we're back.
First of all, how was that experience for you, just writing?
Oh, I really liked it. Like, yeah, as I said in the beginning, my mind was kind of like, what do we do? Bleep, 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 bleep. And for me, like, once I kind of know where I want to come from, then it's much easier. So, for instance, my mind, like, after it, like, I slowed down, I could just sense that it was like, oh, come from my heart. And it was like, what do we want to talk about? And just this kind of, like, vision of the story comes up. And it's just like it feels like almost like a color. And then so I just start writing in that color. And then I just trust and then it kind of just spewed out of me.
Yeah, beautiful. Do you want to share?
Yeah, sure. We made it. I know there was a lot of doubt that we'd get this far. But it turns out the blueprints are made up too. All the adults don't know what they're doing. And even when they think they do, life has a way of flipping the script. I just want to firstly say that you were never wrong. Not less than. Not weird. I know you felt that way for a long time. Then when you grow up, you made it a part of your identity. A badge of honor. Even that was another layer of judgment, hiding and masquerading as quirky rebellion. You were you. As you were supposed to be. Unapologetically. Those traits turned into values. Those values turned into perspectives. And those perspectives brought you the relationships you hold today. From the sand you played with, I built us a castle. It's now my job to prove to you that it isn't as unstable as when you started. That your foundation has been solidified.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's really special.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, that was just like a node to like my little boy.
Yeah, it's clear. I still hear a song in it. Whenever you write, I just hear songs.
Yeah, I think I think that's even when I speak,
Yeah,
I
it's a
feel
rhythm.
like
You can hear the
I
rhythm of
speak
it.
in beats kind of thing.
Yeah, you do.
And it's funny because sometimes I'll get cut off. Not more often than not, but like I realize that's because I pause and I wait and I linger, and it's not for attention or to even, to make anything dramatic. It's because I'm so trusting that I know what to say that I don't know what I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just comes out as music.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because at the end of the day, that's what music is. It's like, I mean, an old like Simpsons joke just lingers in my mind about like jazz music when Lisa's like, jazz is about listening to the notes that they don't play, and then there's a guy, he's like, I can do that at home, but like it's just, I suppose that's just kind of like that's the point of it, is like you need the separation, the silence in between the story, in between the words that make the words actually mean something.
It's also the potential. In musical theatre, it's like the 10 seconds before the song begins. So it's the something has changed within me. Like it's that moment. It's the
Yeah.
it's the thought landing before the impulse to sing.
Mm.
But I find it interesting because you're like, I think it just comes out. I think it comes out of you. I think.
Okay.
You're like, that's what I was like. No, it's you. When you.
Oh, that's a me thing.
Yeah, that's a you thing.
Well, let me know. Is that just a me thing? Surely that's not like, I'm not a singular person. That's
No, but
just...
I think it's the people who, that's their way of making art.
Yeah.
Well, shall I read mine and you can see what comes out of me?
I'd love that.
I haven't written in a while. It was quite nice because normally in my practice I don't get to write a lot at the moment. I'm normally holding other people or holding other stories. So let's go on the journey, shall we? It's cold out here. It's always cold out here. I think I fell and I haven't gotten up. No, thank you. I'm okay. Something about a journey. One at night by the same old flickering post lamp. They always say there's magic. In the movies and the stories. By these old street lights. But I don't think there is. I think it's just an old light with a bunch of bugs flying around, unaware of how small their existence is. They're teeny little bugs, their teeny little bug world by an old light, unable to control themselves. Just here. Flying, waiting for a car, waiting for a bus, waiting for someone to call out your name. Sam. Come back inside, Sam. Where are you, Bob? But sometimes, nothing happens. And you're just standing by an old flickering light with a bunch of bugs who don't know how much longer they have to live. She looks at him. And sometimes you get to sit by a light and be reminded, she points to the sky, of all the lights out there and all of the people sitting by the lights, waiting to share theirs. You have such a strange way of looking at the world. Funny, I was just about to say the same thing about you. A large moth flies around their heads. They smile. They look at each other, just for a moment. A capturing of something. A large moth flies into the light. Zap! Blackout.
Oh, man. Wow. I don't know if it's just my mind or your story, but like I can just picture every word of that. It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you for listening.
How do you feel?
Yeah, good. It's interesting because, like, after writing it, I was like, oh, these are characters from a play that I'm already writing that came out. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And it's a play that I'm working on. But also it's so cinematic in this version. I was like, oh, it's such a movie.
100%. It's the image that you create.
What was the story in your head? Like, what did you see?
It was like, just black background and almost, two people kind of walking into like from the foreground into the background, slowly walking to the light. And it's very dark and dimly lit, and the closer they get to the light, the more that they kind of like, it reveals them, but almost like the more light that's on them, the darker they get in comparison.
Yeah.
And yeah, like there was like, in the darkness that there's like all the bugs around them, but then as you get to the light, you realize that there's just like the one big bug that's kind of like going around. And so there's like a transition between them, but then also the light and then the big bug. And yeah, so it was like, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
But not a song.
Not a song, but like that's the thing. It's like it.
No, mine immediately comes out and like spoken. Like I immediately become dialogue. Like dialogue comes to me so much quicker than anything else. Immediately just hear words and dialogue when I write, and images.
And so how does that connect to your inner story?
I understand that like the images that are conjuring and created, like that light reminds me of the street light that I grew up under. That character is an amalgamation of people in my life. These kind of whimsical characters that I created.
Do you think that you're trying to like create meaning from your past and then put it into the present by like creating these stories that are, have tangible reality already here?
I think I'm just sharing my perception of the world.
Yeah, cool.
So I think I'm just sharing and different ways of perceiving the world. It's that thing that I was yarning before, which I didn't yarn on the podcast, which is this idea of like the creator, or this idea of like this being has this moral story, or the dramatic question of whatever the work is. And that work specifically, the question is the moral kind of idea that the writer is playing with is that basically that love's the answer to everything. And not like romantic love, but platonic love, and just being loved, innately and deeply loved by everything. But it's also a work about, it's kind of reconciliation between two teenagers who come from very different worlds. Well, thanks for coming on Story.
Yeah, thanks for kind of, I feel like you were driving a little bit there, and I really enjoyed that.
It's the journey.
Yeah. I'm just, I love your perspective, not only to your own story, but like to the land and to the greater meta story that we're all kind of playing out and creating together.
Yeah, and the same to you. Like, thank you for sharing your inner stories and your outer stories, and like your connection to your little boy and your inner child, and then also the reality of like Ben's existence in Blacktown. Like, it was really like, I know it obviously because you're my friend. Use Robin because I'm clearly Batman.
Clearly, are you kidding me? Bat them.
Bat them.
Bat them.
Bat them.
You better bat them
Bat
eyelids.
them.
Come on. I'm liking this. I think we should continue doing it.
The podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we sign out?
Yeah.
Hi, and welcome to NobleSole Podcast. This is your reality now. Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks for listening to the NobleSole Podcast with Amy Soul and Ben Noble. This episode was produced and edited by Megan Scollier Gray.
If you want to support this independent podcast, subscribe or follow wherever you listen. You can also check us out on socials at NobleSole Podcast. If you want to drop us a line, email us at noblesolepodcast@gmail.com.
And hey, if you liked the episode, write us a 5-star review. And if you didn't, well, that's none of our business. Bye.